Welcome everyone to C+D Popcorn Therapy, films across the water. Y'all, I'm excited. Today is technically our first episode, quote unquote, but not really. We jumped in the water and we tried to swim last episode, but we're here. And yeah, welcome. My name is Dante Martinez. I'm a huge film lover. Honestly, everything that had to do with my end of the script, I forgot. I just love movies and I love to cry at movies.
Yeah. And I'm Kai, equal part film nerd and movie collecting connoisseur. I collect a lot of stuff. Like today, I'll show Dante after this probably, but I collected more things, which, hey, that's just me. We're just two guys who love movies and aren't afraid to feel things while we talk about them to you and each other.
Yeah. I love it. And today we got a fun episode. We have two films that we wanted to talk about that came out recently. We have Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 and Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which I enjoyed both, Kai. I'm excited to get into it. I'm excited to talk about it. I enjoyed both. But you know what, Kai, let's get right into it. I want to start with Mickey 17. I'm gonna serve this to you first really quick, because I know we've talked about Bong Joon-ho as a director, specifically when it comes to Parasite, but he's also done, remind me, The Host.
The Host, he did Snowpiercer.
Oh yeah,
the film version.
Yeah.
He also did Okja, which is easily his best movie.
Okay.
Easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's made some pretty decent movies.
Yeah. This one is interesting because I'm just gonna kind of get it out the way right away. Robert Pattinson, to me, is it his best performance? Possibly. I would say for me, I love kind of the duality that he brought with his range, specifically when it comes to acting. And I might be quick on the trigger to jump into my favorite aspect. I don't know. I loved his range with it. I loved how different his two characters felt. That was kind of the immediate thing that I felt. Now, you know me, Kai. I am not one to be a fan of the sci-fi fantasy.
Oh no.
Post-apocalyptic, but when it comes to futuristic apocalyptic, I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're a bit hit and miss.
Yeah, but this one was okay, and I think the reason why I enjoyed it so much was because of, I think, the dynamic between Robert Pattinson's character and his clone, and also the world around it was very like. I loved Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette's characters, where they were kind of like the bureaucrats type that were kind of just like spearheading this whole thing. Mark Ruffalo felt like I don't know, like a Donald Trump equivalent in a way that was like kind of comedic, which he is comedic in real life too. But like Mark Ruffalo, I think I found myself laughing so many times at him, and he was very comic book villain to me, a little bit more animated. Yeah. But I think I love Ruffalo and almost everything he does. I think he's hilarious. What did you think about the story and how it's set up and all that stuff? Talking about the genres,
I think Bong Joon-ho has almost, if anything, made it more difficult for him to make movies now. It's the same as when you look at the people who have like iconic movies that everyone talks about. You talk about Scorsese and you talk about loads of people talk about Tarantino. And as you kind of go through and talk more with people, you realize that when there are cult classics, that's when, or like extremely popular films, that's when they get kind of put on that kind of level. So I feel like it's difficult for him now because he's done so many films that are that level. And so now there's an expectation. Yeah. Whether you expect it or not, there was an expectation for me. And like I hate going into films expecting it to be good because of who made it, because I just want to go in completely neutral.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the longer that time goes on, the less I enjoyed it. As in, like, the longer that I think about it. Like, when I watched it, like, it's not a bad film in any way.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not. It's really well made. There's some brilliant performances in it. As you said, Robert Pattinson, I think he's solidifying himself as like a great choice for any project. Like he'll
Yeah.
do anything, and I think he likes that. I completely agree with you in that Mark Ruffalo it's funny, but it got a bit too much for me. And after a
Okay.
while, it wasn't like I disliked his character. Like it wasn't too much as in like I was going, oh, he's
Yeah.
making me angry. It was me going, all right, this is too much.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore type thing. Whereas I think when you really wanna, I don't know, it felt very like commedia dell'arte. Do you know what I mean? Like very like,
Yeah.
here is the villain. They are
Yeah.
mean and they are silly. Do you know what I mean? It felt very much like that.
Yeah.
Which maybe that was the goal. I don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of the story, I really liked the story. I think
Mhm.
that the idea of somebody signing up to be an expendable, so to speak, Jimmy, somebody that can just die and they can test things,
Yeah.
I think was great. And yeah, I think that's my thing with it though, is that I think because I know Okja and that is my favorite movie of his, and I hear so many people talk about him. I really enjoyed The Host as well, but I hear
Mhm.
so many people talk about his movies. I think I was slightly gutted walking out because it didn't reach the level I was expecting, but I think that that's uh my own problem. Jimmy is in like that's
Okay.
because, but like maybe that's also social media with so many people pushing things. I don't know. Maybe I just kind of saw too much about it. I would have
Yeah.
enjoyed it more if I knew less, if that makes sense.
No, I agree because I I remember when this movie was being promoted and it was heavily talked about and it was very hyped up because it was Bong Joon-ho. And so and it was Robert Pattinson. It was one of those movies that not a lot of like Criterion films, I guess you could say, came out in the early couple months. Like we have Sinners, which we'll talk about, which we both I think really enjoyed. But like
Mm.
I'm looking at some of the movies that came out, and I'm like, Mickey 17 was very highly anticipated, and so
Yeah.
I think that with social media definitely bumped it up to be like, okay, this is something that we should look at our radar, and it creates that high expectation. Something I mentioned, I liked that you mentioned was the commedia dell'arte aspect of it because
Mm.
I did enjoy, and something I love about films, particularly like this, is when they do satires on real life topics, and it's not shoving it down your throat, but it's enough to be like, hey, we're like, if you read between the lines, like we're making fun of capitalism, like
Mm.
that. To me, I enjoyed, and being obviously creatives, like it's easy to take from life because life is art and art is life and all that stuff,
Mm.
and see the comparisons to the world that the film was in, also to like kind of the world, at least for us being me being an American, for
Ah!
it's back, um kind of the world that we live in, like not even just America, but all over the world, but particularly in America, because capitalism is something that is just heavily just like dish, with over here.
Mm.
So that I loved the satire and the dark comedy about it. I liked how the film didn't take itself too seriously. This
Yeah.
film, for me, I think would have immensely dropped my rating if it took itself too seriously. And I found myself enjoying it because it didn't. And
Mm.
for me, I don't know, it's weird because you ride a fine line in my mind if you take yourself too seriously or if you don't take yourself seriously at all. A good example of this, Kai, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me, was
Mm.
when Don't Look Up came out. And it took itself
Oh
seriously, but
yeah.
at the same time, there was a point where they just let it go. And they were like, we know it's ridiculous. We're just going to let it go. And I don't know if that was the right choice. For that particular film, just for my opinion.
Yeah.
And I like how Mickey 17 balanced the fact where it's like, hey, like we can take it so seriously, but at the same time, we're just going to be goofy. We have these goofy characters. Robert Pattinson's going to play this outlandish clone of himself. Um,
Mm.
that aspect I enjoyed. Something I kind of mentioned, or I kind of wanted to mention about the film, specifically when it comes to like cloning and stuff, is like kind of I really enjoy Mickey's like crisis he has with his identity because of
Mm.
like the fact that he is an expendable, but he's never really had to experience having his clone next to him because he keeps getting duplicated.
Mm.
Um, spoilers. No, I'll put a disclaimer in the beginning. What? I liked that. It kind of goes in line with kind of what I was mentioning in the last episode, which was kind of the self-worth talk, right?
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's character, he kind of goes through that a lot. And you see it almost in a very comedic way with the scene where he's with Naomi Aki, where she sees both Mickeys and she's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like she raises an eyebrow and she's like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, like it's comedic, right? But it's a deep dive into the character of Mickey 17 specifically. It's interesting because it's like he's definitely not like me, but he is me. And she sees that he looks like me, but it's very, very interesting to kind of see psychologically speaking, why she's not only excited, but not more of like, this is also me. You know what I mean? And that's weird because it's not me, but it's me. It's weird. You know, it's like it's a weird, how do you feel about clones in general when it comes to films? And all that stuff and how it pertains
I
to the film.
don't. Yeah, I don't think I, I particularly go into a movie that I'm like awesome. If there is or isn't, like, is in like, I think it's sometimes a nice surprise, particularly seeing an actor play two roles, which is funny because I know we talked about it, but obviously both of these films we're talking about both have an actor playing two separate roles.
Yeah.
So, you've got. I think that sometimes clone or movies where the plot revolves around clones, or even robots, like that kind of general kind of duplication of people or things that are the plot, I think sometimes can be their own downfall. I don't think it is with Mickey 17. I actually think that my favorite bits about it are Mickey, all the Mickeys, Jeremy, is in like, and the kind of story that progresses there. I don't think, there's sometimes that it can be if it's pushed too hard or it's not developed enough. I feel like that can be quite difficult to watch because it's almost predictable. You kind of know what's going to happen. Which is what I think was quite fun with this. I didn't particularly know where it was going. At one point, I kind of thought, "Oh, okay, I do," and then it kind of took another step again. Yeah, when it comes to particularly films where the plot is the clone, as opposed to just a clone or a duplicate is in the movie, when the plot is specifically about them, do you care more about the performance or care more about the story, if that makes sense? Because for me, I think as we're actors, I feel like not automatically we look at performance, but now that I'm trying to like learn more about filmmaking and storytelling, just in general, I'm starting to kind of realize that one informs the other a lot of the time. So I wanted to know what you think.
That's a really good question. And as I'm kind of sitting here, I'm thinking about it. I think it changes depending on who it is and the context. And for example, we'll tie it into Sinners a little bit. I think if I were to compare Robert Pattinson with his two performances versus Michael B and his two performances, I noticed myself focusing more on the story with Michael B than I did with Robert. I focus more on the performances with Robert because I think Robert did a better job at differentiating the two. Like you had that transparency between both of his performances, which I think is a compliment to him. You know, I think that's a compliment to him in the fact that he like actually was able to pull two different characters, but it's also the same canvas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it, at least particularly these two films, because I'm trying to think, I can't off the top of my head remember a film with clones. I'm like blanking. I can't think. There's tons, but
there's a couple that I can think of. However, I don't want to say because I think that sometimes that is the twist. So I don't want people to know, that's a film about clones, and then go into it and then be like, oh, well, there's no surprise because I know type thing.
Yeah, because I already know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it changes, and I think it's nice that you have that transparency. That's not to say that Michael B didn't do good, by the way. We'll talk about Sinners a little bit later. But I think it really depends on how well you pull it off, you know? Because if you pull it off really well, just my opinion, us being actors, I'm going to focus in on that performance. I'm going to see exactly, like, I'm going to watch how well you can differentiate those two,
Mm.
um, which could be a good or bad thing. Because it's like, okay, in my particular case, maybe I did pull away from the story a little bit because I was so zoned in on the performances, which is usually, I would say I do that a lot, pretty often.
Yeah.
I'm more focused on the acting aspect of films a lot more than I am the story. I have to turn that actor brain off for a second and be like, okay, I'm not, because
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
students of the game, like we went to school
It's
for
tough.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a skill that is really nice to have because we can zone in on those performances. Um,
Mm.
and I think for me particularly, I gotta take that extra step to turn off that brain a little bit to enjoy every once in a while.
Yeah.
Um, just being a film buff at heart and an actor at heart.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely hear that.
Yeah. I think one last point I wanted to talk about Mickey 17 that I really enjoyed that I hope you'll enjoy as well.
Mm.
I really enjoyed the very subtle commentary that they had with the creatures specifically, and how, again, not necessarily just capitalistic mindsets, but also just mindsets of human beings of, I think, that power play, that strong arm to kind of
Mm.
look down upon like animals, creatures, using them for food, using them for clothing and stuff.
Yeah.
It's I I think it showed, I think it was one of those themes in this film that kind of showed like, hey, like, we're all hypocrites at the end of the day, and it's okay, but we should definitely be accountable of that, and we shouldn't abuse that.
Mm.
Um, because there's a huge spectrum when it comes to that. Obviously, you have people who eat meat, who eat, animal based products and stuff like that, which is one side of the spectrum. Then you have the whole other side of the spectrum where I completely disagree with, where it's like hunting wildlife, specifically when you have people like hunting like giraffes, you have people hunting like lions, like that, to like
Mm.
big cats. That's where I'm like, okay, we need to stop with the control and that strong arm mentality a little bit
Yeah.
personally, because it's like you're taking away from the circle of life a little bit. And you could make the same argument for eating eggs and eating steak, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's a weird line to cross. I kind of want to get your thoughts on it. How do you feel about that? How do you feel like
Yeah.
it tied in with the film too?
Yeah, I think it definitely. I think the movie had very obvious points it was trying to make, um, particularly about human beings being expendable to people who have power. Um, People who don't have anything will do anything to be able to survive type mentality. I don't think there was very much difference between this movie and say a zombie movie in terms of it's a fight to survive. Jimmy,
Mm,
it's not
mhm.
wanting to change to something it's not wanting to become something that only has one mind frame. So
Yeah,
for zombies, it is kill someone, eat them. That's my goal type thing
yeah,
for most zombie movies. Whereas in this, it's I'm gonna fight to be me because there's only one of me type thing.
yeah,
And that's very much what Mickey was saying, was being like, we're not like, yes, we are the same person, but we're both two very different people. And I completely agree. I think, though, that when it comes to the topic of conversation about food, and as you said perfectly, going to an area and using something that we don't deem as um, important as human beings, because to us, it's okay, well, a human being doing something to another human being, in terms of hurting or eating or whatever, is wrong. But when it
yeah,
comes to animals, only specific ones are wrong, Jimmy, as
yeah,
opposed to, so, people a lot of the time don't particularly care about pigs and cows and chickens, etc., because they're, that's just what we've been taught. We've been taught, oh, you eat those.
yeah,
Whereas there are, when you think about, horses or cats and dogs, Jimmy, just because we're used to it doesn't mean that it's any more right or wrong than the things that people do normally eat. So I think that was an interesting point that they made, was that as soon as they found them, the first thing they did was cook it and
Yeah.
try and be like, so it was to cook it and be like, this is pretty good. And half the people are like, no, this is terrible type
Yeah.
thing. So I think that the points it was trying to make, it was really obvious. But I think that again was the point, was to start a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. I like that. I think it's important with both of these films and films in general. I love, and I'll kind of write it here. I love how on the nose but subtle some of the themes are with this film and with every film. I feel like it's important. Um, so I've talked to a couple people that have been like, I don't like this film because the theme was pushed too hard, and I'm like, you got it. That's good. Some people don't. It's not for you. So I like that. I like how they mentioned that because it was subtle, with this film. Um, which is good. I mentioned with Mickey 17. So by the way, if you want to follow us, Kai and I on Letterboxd, I'm gonna put our little handles down there so you can follow us. Letterboxd is a really fun movie, I'd say app, right? It feels like Instagram. No, you can make diaries, you can make reviews and stuff, you can make lists.
It's my favorite app that I have.
It's so fun. I impulsively just open it just to see if anyone's reviewed anything, and then I see some random movie someone's watched, which is cool because you can just tune in with your friends and see what they're watching and all that stuff. But I have every year I do a movies of 2025 ranked. So as of currently, right now, I have Mickey 17 fourth, and I felt like that was pretty deserving. Like you said, it's not the greatest movie. It's also not bad. It's a really good movie. I think that started the year off. I have it right. Funny enough, I have it right below Brave New World. I know a lot of people were a little iffy about it. I'm a huge Marvel buff. I'm gonna put it there. I don't even care. So I enjoyed it a lot. I mentioned my favorite aspect, Kai, was the acting for sure. What about you? What say you? What was an aspect of Mickey 17 that you really enjoyed, technically speaking, performatively speaking? One group. We'll get into wild card pick in a second.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think my favorite aspect of it was the kind of set design and the physical sets that they made, because it did feel, none of it felt fake. It did feel like it was a spaceship from a world that we don't know. I think that because some of the performances were either a bit too much for me. I think that acting wasn't my favorite thing, as much as Robert Pattinson was really good in every part that he did for it. But I think that the world built, like, not once did I kind of think this is a set. Do you know what I mean? So I think that that's a testament, because it's really hard, particularly as you said, with something sci-fi or other world. It's really tough sometimes to convince an audience that you're not in a random warehouse in downtown LA. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. Now that you mention it, I really liked it, especially like the exterior shots, like when Mickey's in that hole, like in the ice. That's a really nice. I really like how they decorated that. It felt real. Like I mentioned, I love the acting about it. Not just Robert Pattinson, but I also really enjoyed Naomi Aki. I love her in almost everything. I think she's one of those actresses. She's also in Blink
Twice.
Yeah, and something else I can't remember. I love her. I think she's great. Mark Ruffalo's fun. Toni Collette was fun. Steven Yeun was there. I love Steven Yeun. Obviously, big Walking Dead fan, and he was in one of my favorite films so far this year, Love Me. But I really liked everybody's performances. I felt like they were all kind of different in their own way.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed it. Which is a good tie-in. Wild card pick, Kai. I pretty much already said it. Robert Pattinson. I thought I really enjoyed him. Like you mentioned, I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying earlier. I really love how he got out of that I am just the Twilight boy mold, and he is now one of those actors that filmmakers want to work with. And I think he did it with The Lighthouse. He did it with, honestly, The Batman. Like, I loved The Batman. It was one of the films where I was like, all right, Robert, I see you. You know what I mean? Like, I see you. And he's doing it with Mickey 17. So I like I like his trajectory of where he's going right now.
Yeah.
What say you?
I agree with you in that I do think Robert Pattinson's a great pick. I feel like the first movie that I saw of him that I was like, oh damn, like he's going for it with different roles, showing he can perform was Good Time by the Safdie brothers.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
He's really good in that. It's the same directors as Uncut Gems.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And they're doing
Um,
the Smashing Machine, which with kind of talked about The
yeah,
Rock.
I think only one of them though is in like I think it's just
It's like
one
it's
brother.
just one of them.
Yeah, it's either I think it's maybe Benny, but yeah, one of them. I actually looked it up just now because I realized that this is the first time I've seen this certain actor in a movie, which was
Oh,
Anna Maria Bartolomei. Not, I probably butchered the last name there, but this actress played Kai Katz, which is funny because Kai is my name. But I thought that the out of all the performances, that one felt the most to me like someone. Do you know what I mean? Like that it wasn't a character; it was just somebody. If you told me they'd picked one person randomly off the street to be in the film and add in their own storyline, I'd believe it, type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I think Stephen Yeun's really good in a lot of stuff, but I kind of felt very much like this performance was very similar to him in Okja. It felt very all like the beats of the character, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. Again, not as sure. I love Tony Collette and Mark Ruffalo. Not as sure I enjoyed them that much in this. However, I kind of get that that's just not my villain, in terms of the way in which they perform them. That's not my favorite thing. So I think that's more it than the performance, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair. That's a fair pick.
But yeah, I would probably also pick Robert Pattinson if I was forced to,
If you were forced to. I
kind
like
of
it.
wanted to pick someone else as well, just because it's a bit more fun.
I like it. No, yeah, definitely. I I have a couple different picks for Sinners just in case we sit the same thing. I have options. So that's good. Favorite scene. What was a favorite scene for you, Kai, from Mickey 17? What was a scene that kind of stuck out to you that you really enjoyed?
Ooh.
If you want, I can go first.
No, I do have it. Spoilers. Because this is a major spoiler. Yeah, the big kind of climax to the film, it's not so much the scene, it's more the actual motive, which is when all the smaller creatures protect the bigger mother creatures, so to speak, and they all kind of form their own kind of cocoon, like moving cocoons, to kind of cause problems and issues, so to speak. I did really enjoy that. However, this is going to be so niche, but it was really similar to the plot of The Great Wall with Matt Damon and Pedro Pascal.
Okay.
It is so badly reviewed on Letterboxd. I loved it because I thought it was just fun, and I was just like, this is great. But particularly that motion of thing is like ridiculously similar now I think about it to that film. So I'd be interested to know whether when writing it, Bong Joon-ho had seen The Great Wall just out of curiosity, really.
Like, you know what? I have an idea.
Yeah. He was like, you know what? What about this, but with like big bugs?
Yeah, big slugs.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that's my favorite, or at least favorite sequence.
Nice.
I think that I might know yours, but go ahead and I'll tell you if I'm right
Go
or
on.
wrong. No, I'm gonna let you go first because I don't want to look as dumb.
That's fair enough. I really like this. I kind of mentioned it. I like the scene with Naomi Aki where she sees that Mickey has an 18 and she's in the same room. It's fun, it's erotic, right? It's got so many layers that is so beyond that though. We talk about the self-worth, we talk about the identity crisis, we talk about all that. I feel like I really like that because each character in that scene had a different thought, and I really enjoyed watching them process those thoughts, which is a testament to Robert Pattinson and Naomi. in that scene. So I would probably say that scene. It's fun. It's nothing too consequential, but it's just fun for me.
I was wrong. That was not the scene I was going to guess for you.
Oh, fair enough.
But hey,
What was the scene that you thought?
I thought you were going to do the one where the new Mickey ends up kind of attacking Stephen Yeun's character and almost yeets him down the goodbye chute, I call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was going to guess. But again, hey, I'm just a guy.
Just a guy. We're just a couple of guys.
We're just a couple of guys.
All right.
Skilly-papa.
Next, we're talking about Ryan Coogler's Sinners.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm sure we have loaded thoughts for this film.
Yeah, this could have been a podcast in itself.
This could be an hour, or it could be a day. Who knows?
It could be.
I'll start us off a little bit. I really, really enjoyed this film. This was one of those movies that I was looking forward to, but it kind of crept up on me a little bit. I'm in the process of catching up on my films. I'm still making my way through March, so I'm a little bit behind. But I saw this with my partner. We went to the movies, so this was an in-theater experience, which I think was fantastic. And I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I love Ryan Coogler. We were wanting to do a Ryan Coogler episode, but I'm glad that we kind of did the duality of the clones and stuff with this film or with this episode. I really enjoyed it. It took turns that I was not expecting it to take, and instead of getting upset, I was like, you know what? Take me with you.
Yeah.
Hold my hand. And I liked it. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Particularly, and we'll kind of start here. We talked about Robert Pattinson playing two characters. Spoiler alert. I don't think this is a spoiler alert. Was it mentioned in trailers and stuff? I think we knew Michael B was playing two characters.
Oh yeah, they definitely in terms of the trailer wise, they definitely focused on that quite a lot. I think. But yeah, I actually have a point about that a bit later, which would be really interesting to bring up. But yeah, I think that it was put in the trailer quite a lot.
Kind of already put in. We can I like to talk about the duality and the identity of Michael B's characters, because he does play two twin brothers, Smoke and Stack. And it takes place in 1930s Mississippi, which I think is a very interesting timeline, because I love period pieces. I really enjoyed the route that they took though with this. Particularly because they are gangsters, like they're straight gangsters. Like this isn't like we do delve into the accuracy of the time and specifically the place, but I really enjoy how the film kind of took two archetypes that isn't known in that time at that place and threw them in, and I thought that Michael B ate it up. I loved kind of these two characters in this scene, and all the characters around them and stuff. For you, and this is a question I want to kind of dive into, and we're going to dive right into Michael B. Jordan. Did you find it difficult to differentiate the two? Because me and my partner did, and it was hard to at times, because I think at one point you definitely got that moment, right? And we'll get a little bit of that later once we get into that second and third act. But that first act, I think that first 45 minutes, Kai, I was really struggling to find that differentiation between the two, besides just the clothes and the names.
You know what? I don't know if I fully agree, mainly because I think the thing that I struggled with the most, as somebody who's not American, sneeze inbound. Bless me.
Bless you.
I think the thing that I had issue with as somebody who's not American, particularly not Southern American, based in the South, was the accent. I don't think that the characters confused me. I think sometimes there are certain words, and it's more because I need to see, and I wish that there was more movies in which characters from the South, are kind of main plot points and not just kind of side characters from a lot of media that I've seen. I think that, there's just certain words, Jimmy, particularly if you've got somebody with a deep voice, it's quite difficult sometimes to kind of fully understand, especially if the language is the 30s. I mean, it's not like they're chatting like us right now. So I think that's what I found issue with a bit more. And that was, again, more near the beginning, maybe just because there was a lot of context and a lot of character kind of explanation, so to speak, of like, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, this is where we've been type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, I don't know. I think I enjoyed the subtlety of the performances of the two separate people more than I enjoyed Robert Pattinson, with it being very obvious that they are two separate people. I think, as you said, as it goes on, you kind of understand a bit more things about them. But I think
Yeah.
going to rewatch it, because I probably will rewatch it probably tomorrow.
Oh,
I
nice.
think you'll kind of realize pretty quickly what those tells are, and I think it's just
Yeah.
because you kind of on a first watch you're getting used to it, and you're getting very much you're taking in everything from the world as opposed to just the characters. If that makes
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it can be
Yeah.
difficult. I completely get it in that they're both both wearing hats.
Yeah. Both wearing hats. Both looking
Yeah.
good. Which kind of small tie-in. I love the costume design with everybody, but
Mm.
particularly with them. They looked good. They looked clean. I liked it.
They be
Um,
looking top tier.
Tom tier. Something I actually really enjoyed with this episode. We're on an episode. We're on a podcast episode. Something I enjoyed about this film, um, was the inclusion of music so much.
Mm.
Like it was, and we both know what scene we're talking about, right? I think
Yep.
that scene, but not just only that scene. I'm talking the whole film. Like it's one of those movies where I need to watch it again just to appreciate it again.
Yeah.
Because I love the integration with film. In this film with the music. Um, Both the score and soundtrack I thought really kind of said a lot. And it kind of used it as like a spiritual force, like it felt this film was dancing around the ideas of religion and dancing around the ideas of hoodoo and spirituality and stuff like that.
Mm.
And comically, fictional stuff like vampires and stuff. Like it was dancing around a lot,
Yeah.
pun intended. Um, but I think it worked because of the integration of music, and I think
Yeah.
I found myself falling in love with that throughout that film from the beginning. Like I loved that. And I think it really had to do with Miles Canton's character. I can't remember his name off
Mm.
the top of my head, but he I
No,
think
he
was
was
Sammy.
his
That's what it was.
voice so good.
So good. It was such a and like it's that blues, like it's that I don't know, it was really I really enjoyed how we danced around that and how music was really portrayed as, hey, music is that is the connection to the soul. Music is that gateway to just letting go of the world's problems and just enjoying life, which was
Mm.
why I loved so much that they were building this up. Like you could feel that they were building to something in the film when they acquired the place and all this stuff, and they were just going to make a juke joint. And it
Mm.
wasn't going to be the huge ballroom. It wasn't going to be a mansion. It wasn't going to be anything for the time to be like, oh, you need to be there. It's just a juke joint. They're just doing
Mm.
music. They're just having drinks. They're just having a good time because it's like that's how important music is. Not just at the time. I'm talking about now. Like
Yeah.
people we kind of take it for granted a little bit, like and it's so easily accessible obviously. Um but I loved that. I loved that as a force.
Mm.
Do you have any jumping thoughts on the whole music integration with it?
I think genuinely I could talk about this movie for days.
Yeah.
Which is funny because when it finished, I remember thinking, yeah, it was really good. I don't know how I fully feel about it, but yeah, it was really good. And it's just been on my mind every single day since,
Yeah.
which hasn't happened in a long time with a movie. I think yeah, I completely agree in that I think the music and particularly the scoring and Ludwig Göransson and everything about it, with it being so inherently driven by music,
Mhm.
is a testament to itself, in that people are extremely talented, Jimmy,
Yeah.
and the idea of going to a bar or to an event that you can hear somebody play music that maybe you've never heard before, or music that you've never heard somebody else sing before. It's just it's so much fun. Like, I think that even if the extra stuff that, as you said, the spiritual and the kind of maybe mythical, elements to it, if it didn't, I still think it would be a really good film, because
Yeah.
they incorporate everything about what it is to be, a person, to wanna love, to wanna create, to wanna, do absolutely everything. And I think that the music is perfectly done from both aspects, being
Yeah.
blues, but also, um, music from Irish history, I think is
Yeah.
so obvious. And
Mhm.
and also they're both catered with the same amount of love. Do you get me? They're both made and performed and shown with the same amount of love, and
Yeah.
that then makes the characters more interesting, because you're either more
Mhm.
invested, or you care more. If maybe they're not a character that you like, but you care more about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Mm.
I agree. I something you mentioned, I love the fact that you brought in that Irish folk music. That to me, I think that scene in particular, when they're having that cult and they're like dancing, and it's
Rocky
like the
Road to
music.
Dublin.
Yeah, like that to me, honestly, Kai, I found myself pumping to that music, and I was like, "Stop, stop, no!"
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And it's so
it's
good.
it's it's so good, right? It was executed to, could you say perfection? Like it was really well done. It's not even
It
just
was
that.
close
It's
to it.
it's it's everything. I think about not just the Irish music and not just the blues, but I'm talking like even when, and I know you're not particularly religious, but some of the gospel music, both in the church, but also with what he was singing. Like,
Mm.
if you really think about it, it's there's so much heart in music, and I think that that was really shown in this film, particularly because of how much heart and soul is in it. And that music can come from every limelight. I'm not a huge country fan personally, but I can appreciate it. I'll make fun of it, but I can
Yeah.
appreciate it. Um, that's probably the one genre I don't listen to is that.
Mm.
Um, but particularly with some of the gospel music and stuff, like you got to think about a lot of slaves were listening and singing and humming to that music. It's got that soul to it.
Mm.
Soul, R&B, blues, like that's kind of where it began. And I think that every type of music that was used in this film was really served as like a bridge for this movie to just keep pushing. And I think it was really executed well.
Mm.
You mentioning wanting to watch it again has then in heightened that excitement for me to be like, you know what? I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
You know, that to me, I don't know. I loved it. Something I wanted to mention too is how much they touched on like African spirituality and kind of the hoodoo, contrast and stuff, but also, like I said, they touched a lot in this film, right? We could talk about it for hours, but the
Mm.
African spirituality with hoodoo stuff, you have Christianity and religion in aspect, and then you also have that mythical aspect where you talk about vampires and stuff. Like you're bouncing around so much. I
Yeah.
didn't feel cluttered. Like I felt myself following the story. I felt myself like understanding everything as it was coming to me and not being like, "Oh, this is a movie about African spirituality and hoodoo. This was a film about Christianity. Oh, this is a film about vampires." Like
Mm.
I found it to be an element to the story that was like, "Hey, we're just hopping on this train. Like
Mm.
we're just gonna go," And I feel like very few films can do that. Um,
Yeah, it's tough, particularly with it being so easy to get media made now and uploaded to YouTube or um anywhere. Jeremy is in like Spotify. You can make your own music, and you can post it. I think that that's what makes it so much fun, but also so difficult for people to kind of find new music, or find new artists, or find a piece of music that like sticks with them. And I think as well, as a as a white male watching this film, if anything, it's reminding me, particularly with the connection with Irish folk music, and being Welsh. I think, there's a lot of history, and we'll probably talk about that again. As Remix reasoning, or his, or at least what he puts on a front as, in terms of, because obviously Remick is really old. And there's a lot that he's probably seen, particularly with how the Irish community was treated. Same with the Scottish and the Welsh in history. But I think that when I was watching it, I was blown away and reminded by just how impressive people are, and particularly with the music. As again, we'll probably talk about it, that one specific scene where they make some pretty bold choices in terms of adding stylistic music to the song.
Mm-hmm.
And as it goes on, you kind of get caught in a trap of going, oh my God, but like everything has come from something. Jimmy,
Yeah.
like the music we listen to now wouldn't be around if, blues music wasn't a thing, rock music, if you had ballads, and even just like
Mm-hmm.
sonnets. If you think about it, sonnets from Shakespeare and stuff, that leads into people creating music. And I think the fact that it was so obvious that they were like, we want this to be a topic of conversation, and we want there to be a link between the evil in the film and the main protagonists, whether they were evil themselves or not. That's up for the viewer to decide. I think that the fact that they both were so strongly incorporated in music it made the whole thing so much more real, because you almost saw the villains almost as people still. Jimmy, is in, like, you were watching it and you were like, oh, but they're still incorporated by music and they still feel that. So at what point does being a human stop and being an entity that lives on begin? Jimmy, it's, is it just life? Is the fact that life ends a reason for being human and nothing else? Jimmy, I think that it made some pretty cool points.
Yeah.
I
liked it. I really something I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying that I really enjoyed was kind of going back to what we were talking about Mickey 17, of that balancing between taking yourself seriously but also not taking yourself seriously. I think this film hit that perfectly on both levels. I think this was perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I loved, because it took itself very seriously, right? You are dealing with generational trauma in this film, but you are also blending that goofy gothic horror movie vibe. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know, it just blended so perfectly. And instead of getting mad, I was just like, you know what? Let's do this. Like I'm having a good time. Like I really enjoyed it. Particularly that scene, but also I think with some of the small scenes and stuff with different characters, I loved how each character made you feel for them, so that when they got offed, you really felt that. You know what I mean? Like that's what I feel like a lot of horror movies nowadays lack, is that empathy towards those characters, because when they get off, you're like, oh, they just they got killed. But I feel like with this film, you really felt for those characters. Every single character, I was like, please don't, like, I don't want it to be you. I don't want it to be you. And we'll talk about some of those characters later, because I have a lot of characters that I really enjoyed, actors specifically, and how they portrayed it. I want to really quickly talk about Ryan Coogler. You've seen Creed, Kai. It's been a while.
It's been a while, though.
Yeah. He's also done Black Panther. He's also done Wakanda Forever, obviously, Fruitvale Station. How do you feel about Coogler as a director, and kind of how did it tie in with this film? How did he do in this film in your aspect?
I think he crushed it. I don't particularly kind of follow award shows anymore. Everyone has their own opinion of them. I think stuff like Letterboxd and people's conversations and reactions to things are the award, because it's like, if you can connect with a group of people you've never met before, you've done something right. But this is genuinely a movie that I can see being nominated for Best Picture, being being a film that just crushes other people, other films in, not only kind of awards, but like in terms of people, adding it to the top 4 on Letterboxd. It's the little things, but like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people talking about it. That it's almost like just come out of nowhere. Like it came out and everyone was like, yeah, it's good, and then it had like this resurgence again of people realizing, oh damn, no, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
And I think Coogler, I think he, because there's obviously the other stuff as well where it's the first time in regards to the production, like the production companies that he made the deals with. Like he made some pretty crazy deals that usually are like a no-no for a lot of production companies. For example, I think it's after 5 years he retains all rights to it. He got like a percentage of the like box office cuts, stuff like this. Like again, I could be getting that slightly wrong, but they're big things that it's showing that streaming services aren't working anymore, and we need to kind of get cinema viewing back up so that we can kind of keep the wheel turning. And I think it's going back more towards indie cinema and people making stuff because they really want to, as opposed to thinking it will sell well. Because this very much, like, yes, there's an audience for it, but this could have flopped badly if it was done not well.
Yeah. You attach a different actor to play Smoke and Stack, you get a different director. It just doesn't have that vibe, And I feel like that's actually a good testament to Ryan Coogler. I think his films have a lot of heart. Like I obviously watched Creed this past week, and there's so much heart in that film. You look at Black Panther, there's so much heart in that film, and it's because of the director behind it. And even Wakanda Forever, like that movie is probably one of the most emotional Marvel movies I've seen. Like it's, if not the most, it is so heavy hitting, and it's because it has so much heart and so much of Ryan Coogler in it. And I think it really showed. And I really love what you said of getting people back in the cinema is so important. And I love that filmmakers nowadays are making that a priority, because it is so important. Like yes, it's so easy to have streaming. It's so easy to just click and have access to Killers of the Flower Moon. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's getting in the theater and actually seeing it is just a completely different monster in and of itself. I wasn't alive when Titanic came out, and so, but the first time I saw it was when they did a re-release, and I was like, this is fantastic. Like this is the way people should be watching films. Now that doesn't mean to buy a bunch of Blu-rays, because I got a bunch. I know you got tons.
I got way too many.
Yeah. And it's not, we're not saying not to get that. It's just appreciate those movies when they do come out in the theaters. You know what I mean? Because not every film's going to get a re-release. We're not going to get a re-release of Paul Blart Mall Cop. You know what I mean?
And I dread the fact that I never got to see that in the cinema.
It's like stuff like that. So that was a really good point that I appreciated.
I just want to quickly jump up before we kind of move on, because I'll probably forget, but I want to get your opinion. Do you think that if, bless him, Chadwick Boseman was still with us, do you think he would have played one of the brothers?
That's a really good question.
Because I think they would have. I think too. Especially because of how close they all were, particularly as a trio. I think they definitely would have. And that it's, with him passing and that also being such a prominent thing for both of them because they were all so close. I think that, not safety is the right word, but the using an actor like Michael B. Jordan who can play two characters really well is like a substitute that works best for the film. As opposed to one being Chadwick and one being Michael. But I think it would have been really a really good, and obviously he's passed away, bless him, but I think it would have been like another level. Like that film would still be as good, but it would just be another level on top of that.
I think it would have. I think that's where we would have seen the distinction between Smoke and Stack. Because have you seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom?
Not yet.
That movie shows. I think it's Stack. I think that's who Chadwick would have been cast as, because Smoke was like he was the OG gangster for sure. I think he was the older one too. And that one being played by Michael, fantastic. But I think Chadwick playing the other brother, kind of the heartfelt brother, but still kind of a little bit gangster, really shows the dynamic between the two and how they are brothers, but they're different. And I feel like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is a great example. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a really good example of Chadwick in that time playing someone who is similar to Stack. And I feel like that would have been beautiful. That would have been so, and I feel like you would have gotten probably definitely you would have gotten a harder hitting performance from Michael B. Jordan for sure, because they were very close.
Yeah.
Very, very close. And so that's a really good. I love that. Like that's something that is fun to talk about, because it's like, bless him. Yeah, like you said, bless him. Like rest in power, Chadwick. He's not here anymore, so we can't have that alternative timeline. I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Kind of getting into the favorite aspects of the film. I kind of mentioned it with Ryan Coogler. My favorite for sure was the directing. I think he really just spearheaded this film. There were so many good aspects: the music, the acting, even the set design. We talked about set design for Mickey 17. I really enjoyed how we were transported to this era. But I loved the directing. Ryan Coogler is one of those directors where the more and more I watch him, I'm like, you got it. People will know you got it. What about you? What was an aspect for you?
Obviously, the music was incredible. Like, it's still on my brain, even as we're talking. However, to go for kind of like a bit of a different aspect, I think genuinely the writing, the screenplay was, as time's gone on, become even more of a love for me, particularly two moments. So first thing is, did you stay for the end credits?
Was there one before the final credits? Because if so, yes.
What was the final?
It was
credits?
when Sammy's older and he's in the bar.
Yeah. So there's one moment there, again, spoilers, but considering we've been talking about this for quite a while, that's by the by. There's a moment where he says, I think that scene for me, I was like, oh no, this could be bad, because I was like, it seems really goofy in comparison to the rest of the film.
Yeah.
However, there's a certain line in that which is, that was probably the best night of my life.
Yeah.
And it hit so hard that I was like, it almost justified the entire end credit scene.
Yeah.
For me, like when I was watching it, I was like, this doesn't need to be in there. And then as soon as that line came in, I was like, that needed to be in there, because it completely changed it. And there's another bit as well. I don't know if you noticed this, because I didn't. I saw a video of somebody talking about this, but it just goes to show that the writing is so driven that, and you don't quite realize it, which is when he has at the end of the movie, when he ends up focusing and killing all those people, and then he ends up then having the vision then of the wife with the baby. She ends up saying something that it didn't hit me at first until somebody mentioned it, and I was like, oh my god, which is he's obviously smoking a cigarette, and she says, won't you put that out before you get smoke on him? And obviously smoke is the name of the brother, and that's she very much was like, stay away. And it's just little things like that I think it tells so much more than 5 minutes of footage could have. And it just, the fact that these two brothers were so close, but they needed to be separate to be happy. Do you know what I mean? As in, like, to truly what they wanted. I think the writing, it still makes my chest tight talking about it, type thing. And I think that's a real testament.
It's a really good. I love how you brought up the end credit scene because specifically, it could have gone bad, like it, and not in a good way. Funny enough,
Mm,
um, I love how he spares him at the end. I think that's such a it's such a powerful and it's such a it makes sense in it, but it's also risky. You know what I mean? Like it's like you could have easily just had him come back, but I love it's so more meaningful to keep him alive because of his reasoning for it. And I
mm,
think it speaks a lot to me, and I think it speaks a lot to you because we're artists. Like Sammy was a creative, you know, he is creating art. He is an
yeah.
artist. And the fact that Smoke or Stack, I don't know which one it is. Um, the fact that he spares his life almost as a justification for just like continuing to do your music, you know, like I'm so proud of you, you know, this is what we wanted. Because like you got to think about when Smoke and Snack, they were trying to be like, hey, like you don't want to follow us, like we're trying to protect you, we're trying to provide for you, but at the same time, like they kept telling Sammy to like kind of back off from being too close to them because they were
Mm,
going to get hurt. Like they were not good guys at all, they were not good people.
mm,
um because they were navigating their own personal stuff, you know what I mean? And so
yeah.
I really enjoy that subtle moment where he spares his life at the end. I felt
Yeah.
like that showed that not only because he was consumed by that the vampire within him and stuff, he's a bad person, whatever. He still had that piece of his heart that was for Sammy, and because Sammy had something to cling to, like being an artist, that
Mm,
creative outlet. That I don't know that really spoke to me as an actor. You know, that really
yeah.
spoke to me. He's an artist, so
Mm,
I like that.
100%.
I like that. Um, Did you say your favorite aspect? Did we catch that?
Yeah, the screenwriting, the screenplay.
Screenwriting,
Yeah,
screenplay.
yeah.
It was good. It's too
It
damn good.
was so good.
Okay, so I have options for my wild card pick. So I want to hear your wild card pick first. Who was someone from the cast you want to highlight?
Oh, the list.
It's a list. I got options.
Um,
Hit me.
I think we could talk about. I'm just going to get their name.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people we could talk about for obvious reasons. Um, yeah, looking at this now, like I think I could highlight probably everyone for different reasons. The one person that I think brought an element to it which it needed to feel to flow as good as it did of an element of comedy was Omar Benson Miller.
Okay.
Purely because a lot of the particularly even like the line delivery or just conversations in general were very funny and very lighthearted, or at
Mhm.
least in a joking friend way.
Yeah.
For example, when um either Smoke or Stack ends up trying to basically recruit him, and he ends up saying something he doesn't like, and he's like, "I'm going to come over there and I'm going to beat you up so damn hard." And it's those little moments of comedy, particularly when he's being asked, let me in, invite me in, kind of thing. And it's just those
Mhm.
like little moments, or just the way in which he says the inflection of words,
Yeah.
uh, that just make it honestly quite like really funny. And it shouldn't be like in my brain. I'm like, this shouldn't be funny because it's
Yeah.
really serious. But like I'm sat there just kind of thinking, this is the way he's doing it is so good. Um, Again, there are so many people that I could highlight here. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
genuinely almost the entire cast.
Yeah. Everyone
Um,
killed it. It was
yeah,
fantastic.
even the two actors who played the couple next to Remick,
Mhm.
the first, like
Yep.
every single person, I think, absolutely crushed it. And I think
Yeah.
even if one performance was bad, the whole movie would have been it would have been worrying, because you'd
Yeah.
think, oh, it was really good, but this one person, but every single person brought it in their own capacity. I think I know who you're going to say, but again, I'm going to let you go first.
Actually, so you actually didn't say one of the two. I was worried you were going to say the one, and I was going to go to the other two. I'm going to pick. Drum roll, please. I really enjoyed Delroy Lindo,
Yeah,
who
that's what
was the harmonica
yeah,
player. I was either him or Miles Canton. Miles Canton's getting a lot of love, obviously, and rightfully so. But I
yeah.
loved Delroy Lindo in this film. He like I loved him, you know, like he's such an older generation, you know, but he had that comedic aspect to him. I don't know. He was cracking me and my partner up. Like it was just so funny to watch him
Yeah.
work and kind of those scenes with him. So I would say him. He's one of those kind of similar to what you were saying with Omar. Like you just want the best for him, you know? Like he's got that such likable aspect to him. He was
Yeah.
great. Michael's Keaton though, fantastic. He was his debut. Good for him.
Well, excuse me. It's the same as I'm slowly, as time's going on, really loving Haley Steinfeld
Okay.
as a performer. Because I only really know her. Obviously, there was the film that she did with Woody Harrelson when she was much younger, but particularly recently, or even with this film, it's a completely different side to her as a performer. Like I've not seen a performance like this, but also to have the switch from one to the other character-wise.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a testament to how good Ryan Coogler as a director was on set, because he seems very much like he's not somebody sat in a video village, 5 miles down the road. He's like sat there with a monitor watching, directly next to the camera. So I think that is also a testament. I feel like sometimes actors need those directors to be able to get that performance out of them. I think he definitely got that for her. She's very talented anyway, but I think he just, or at least the environment he made and the people working on the film made, I think really, really, really crushed it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll need to watch it again. I definitely need to. Finally, favorite scene.
The whole movie.
I was gonna say the whole movie's a good choice. I'm gonna steal it. All right, I'm gonna steal it, Kai. It's that one shot. That one shot when they're going through the generations of music, and it's just all you're getting those splices of life of just these different moments in time of where that originated. What were we looking like? What was the word? And it's so beautiful how they portrayed it because it wasn't in order, which a lot of people with OCD would like. But I don't know. I really enjoyed how we bounced from generation to generation to generation, and how this one link of just music has kept us going. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Completely agree. That is the exact scene that will be used if it's up for awards. Like that it will. Yeah. But even the ending of that with the flames and then the cut then with the music change to Remick watching, and you just immediately seeing, oh, whatever his motives were have changed. Like he's here now. It's so damn good. There's what scene? You know what? I'm going to say the Rocky Road to Dublin scene.
Okay. That's a good scene.
Mainly because as well, it catches you off guard in that
it does catch you off guard.
You see them, you see them kind of walk outside and you think, oh, something's going to happen here. And it doesn't. It's just them all vibing, kind of having a sing song. But I remember watching it and it caught me so off guard. And then like halfway through, I was like, why am I really invested in this? Why am I kind of like, why is my head and my feet tapping type thing? It's such a stressful scenario. But yeah, I gotta go with that one. Other than the one shot, shot was well, yeah, that's going to be used for award stuff over and over.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. Going back to my movies of 2025 ranked, it is number 1, and it's probably going to stay there for a while until the Marvel in me sees Fantastic Four. Who knows? There's some good movies coming out, but I need to see it again because it's too damn good. It's too damn good. But yeah, hey, if you stuck around this long, thank you guys, seriously. This is something, again, we're really passionate about. We're not critics, not therapists. We're just a couple of guys, we're two guys that love movies, and we try to make sense of it. So
yeah, no, 100%. And I think as well, it's fun because it brings up other people's opinions. Jimmy, as in people hearing will either completely agree with us or think that we're talking absolute nonsense. And I think that's what's so fun about it, of just films in general and just media, is people can, because ultimately we all have different experiences, so nobody's going to view it the same way. And I think even our conversations, a lot of the time, being one from a different country, two being, we are roughly the same age, but the media in which we've watched growing up is not the same type thing. And I think it's just so much fun. It really is so much fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button. Comment down some questions or any movie suggestions, podcast suggestions you guys want to see. I think we're talking about doing Agent Carter. We're doing a huge MCU binge, so we're gonna do Agent Carter, the one shot, season 1 to season 2. Thunderbolts just came out as of this recording, so we're gonna do that on the following episode as well. And we've got other stuff in the works. We've talked about A24. We've talked about a lot. Currently watching Lord of the Rings with my partner, so we'll probably do a Lord of the Rings episode, which
also,
I feel like is going to be fun.
Potentially a Final Destination episode because of the new one that's coming out. That will be fun.
Binging those, so it's exciting. But yeah, hey, we're building this with you, not necessarily just for you. So please, if you enjoyed it, hit a little like button, hit the subscribe, text us, be like, yo, I liked that. Keep doing it, and we'll be like, all right.
Yeah, but also give us some suggestions. We're new to this. We're not perfect, and we're never going to reach perfection. But we very much would like to constantly keep learning and experimenting and just trying new stuff, putting ourselves out there, and finding likewise individuals, and create like a little community on here.
It was fun. Thank you again, my good sir, my co-host there, the dude Kai. Thank you guys for watching. Take care of yourselves. Reach out to a friend, call someone, tell them you love them, and watch some good movies. And we'll see you guys next time.
Damn right. Peace. See ya.